If the image of someone is looked upon as conservative, just about anything he does is conservative. If a person is looked upon as extremist, just about anything they do is extreme. If a person is looked upon as corrupt, just about anything that person does is corrupt. The image given to you of that person is the image you see that person in. Now, when they want to manipulate your mind and they want you to think in a negative way about a certain person or a certain group or a certain area, the first thing they do is project that person in that negative image. And they make sure that this image is distasteful to the public. And from then on out, whatever that person has to say is rejected. And no matter what that person does, it doesn't matter if it's right or if it's wrong. As far as you're concerned, if the image is wrong, then everything they do is wrong.
Quickly, let's review two things touched on earlier regarding the extinction concern that several groups harbor, and the issue of supremacy will follow that. As far as the extinction concern and racism, first of all, let's be clear. I'm not saying that everyone who has this concern of extinction of their particular group is a racist. So let's not confuse issues. I'm not trying to make the waters muddy. I'm trying to keep things as pristine as possible. What I am saying is that there are a lot of people who push this racism card who would like to make it an issue of a breeding competition. And it basically seems like an excuse to promote freedom from association. Now, I'm all for people making decisions that benefit their best interest as long as it is not at the expense of another individual. And if freedom of association is something that they want to do, more power to them. But to use it as an excuse in order to promote racism, I'm not buying it.
Some view the incident calmly and indicate acceptance of the fact. But for others, the Myers moving into Levittown constitutes an infringement of their own liberties. And under the impact of this situation, they react with anger and force. What they say reveals their deepest fears and frustrations. Why did you select Levittown to live?
We were looking for a place to buy a home. We looked at Levittown, and we liked the homes here. We liked the advantages that Levittown seemed to offer in comparison to other cities. And we understood that it was going to be all white, and we were very happy to buy a home here.
How about your children? Have you talked with them about the Myers?
We have tried to keep the discussions away from the children. I feel that it's something that we adults should solve without bringing the children into it any more than we have to. We're doing it for the children, but I don't feel that they are old enough to understand the problem as it is.
Do you think a Negro family moving here will affect the community as a whole?
Definitely.
In what way?
I think that, well, the property values will immediately go down if they are allowed to move in here in any number.
Can you give a basis for that judgment?
Yes, we used to live in Washington, D.C., and we saw a very good example of that there.
The repetition of an experience that was distasteful. Is there to be no escape from living near Negroes? And what of the dream of middle-class respectability? If a Negro family can afford what you can afford, how do you justify your feeling of superiority? The illogic of one's own position becomes apparent, and in self-justification, the old tribal myths are invoked.
So freedom from association is one thing that creeps up, or maintaining some sense of true diversity. Because if we can keep all of the groups separate through the use of racism, now, like I said, not all people who wish to utilize freedom of association are racist, but for those who are, for all of those who want to do this and keep true diversity intact, then it is a guarantee that when we go to this country or that country, we're going to have countries that preserve their integrity. Because heaven forbid if anybody wishes to live anywhere they want to live. Anyway, You cannot prevent a certain group from procreating faster than any given group. This is a complete waste of energy. It is highly unlikely that this fear would become a reality, for the races that do prescribe to this or try to push this angle actually exists, and therefore they oppose commingling of various groups or various members of humanity. Therefore, since they exist and others of like mind exist, they can rest assured that unless there's a calamity of some sort, their phenotype and culture can be preserved.
So the things that are in operation on this planet is that white people want to kill us. I want you to understand that. They want to kill you. And it has nothing to do with what the kind of degree you have, what kind of car you have, what kind of title you have, what fraternity you belong to, what religion you belong to. They want to kill you because that is part of their plan. And the one idea is how we are going to exterminate white people, because that, in my estimation, is the only conclusion I have come to. We have to exterminate white people off of the face of the planet to solve this problem. Now, I don't care whether you clap or not, but I'm saying to you that we need to solve this problem because they are going to kill us.
Now, the next issue will be this supremacy thing. You can't get away from it when you're addressing racism. When we speak about racism, supremacy is soon to follow. But know this, supremacy requires power, monetary and political influence, and the cognitive direction of a bigot to exist. Okay? Or, that is just the nuts and bolts of it. It also demands a demonstrable ability to shape or dominate another's existence. Brute force being the last alternative, but a very possible one. It is a collectivist action and not an individual posturing. So let's get that straight. A good model for this, I think, would be probably apartheid. Okay? So keep this in mind when we are using terms. We don't want to convolute the situation and use terms inappropriately.
No matter how much you hear talk about democracy, no matter how much they say the land of the free and the home of the brave, it's as racist as North Korea or as racist as Russia. The only difference between America and North Korea preaches segregation and practices segregation. America preaches integration and practices segregation. This is the only difference. They don't practice what they preach, whereas North Korea preaches and practices the same thing.
Today's racists, however, make an effort to provide evidence for the superiority or the inferiority of a given race by the historical accomplishments of some of its members. We can get the frequent, elaborate, and remarkable display of a great pioneer who, in his or her lifetime, is held in contempt, formally branded as disgraceful, obstructed, oppressed by his very own people from his country, and then miraculously, a few years after his or her death, he or she is enshrined in a national monument and held as proof of greatness of the worthy people of mention. Now, let's get it through, our very thick heads at times that only the individual has a seat where his faculty of reason resides and where the individual achievements materialize from. And a culture or society is not the faceless commodity of uniform masses, but the sum of the achievements of the individual men and women of a particular group. Now, by the way, even if it was proven beyond doubt that a particular race of people were intellectually superior, This tells us nothing about any given person, and it would be immaterial to one's judgment of him or her, assuming that that person is a rational being who uses discernment.
Both sides, black and Mexicans and Latinos, come on here, oh, you fucking, a lot of blacks, oh, you fucking wetbacks, you fucking beaners, you guys sell shit on the freeways, you guys sell oranges, go mow my lawn. And, and then a lot of Mexicans come on here talking about, oh, you fucking niggers, you fucking blacks, you fucking nasty-ass niggers, go back to Africa, and just all this stupid racist nonsense.
Racism is a type of gang dominance. It's an institutionalized form of thug mentality. Now, I'm confident that if I chose to, that I could find proof that since time of prehistorical tribal warfare, that men of one tribe were thought to be the prey for men of another tribe. So this is, of course, nothing new. And what about all of this hoo-ha about the definition of racism? Okay, well, language is open to modification, transition, and transformations. Most existing definitions do not satisfy everyone, but they are not invalid unless proven to no longer be accurate. Most, not all, lexicographers, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, lexicographers, that I have spoken with have agreed with this point, that language is indeed open to modification. Now, by the way, do not allow someone to convince you that racism doesn't have substance. That is just fear and ignorance. No, it is a general idea inferred that can be used to deplete another of their life force, just like a weapon. It's not about complicating the definitions to purify the bigotry of one group of people over another. However, racism is a cognitive construct with fear, ignorance, or the unwillingness, or any combination of the three, to reason at its core. Now, that's not the same as saying that racism is just fear and ignorance, okay? And this ignorance, this unwillingness, this fear that thrives as a reason for its core to exist, this gives permission to the person to visualize and treat whatever person they are targeting as a subhuman or an inferior. And let's not get words like bias, bigot, or bigotry, prejudice, and racism confused. Racism demands that you have an element of superiority. It is not simply the act of holding prejudice on the basis of race. That is a bigot. And I think Ayn Rand said it best, and I'll try not to distort her words. I believe I can remember them. She said, like every other form of collectivism, racism is a quest for the unearned. It is a quest for automatic knowledge, for an automatic evaluation of men's characters that bypasses the responsibility of exercising rational or moral judgment. And above all, a quest for an automatic self-esteem or pseudo-self-esteem. So that's why we do not need racism and why it should be obsolete.